Hmm? Hey. Here we go. Woohoo!
Step inside the Smash Box with Johnny V and Terry Miller, the disc golf guy.
Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. I'm John Van Derzen. I'm joined here with my co-host and Mr. I'm probably in much warmer weather than here in Wisconsin, Terry, the disc golf guy Miller. How you doing, Terry?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing well. It's a couple of first year today. Not only am I doing a podcast right here from outside of a coffee shop, but I just paid for my parking meter with a mobile app. So stuff's getting crazy.
You know you're
when you have all that.
Well, you know you're in Silicon Valley when that happens. When you're paying for everything via some mobile app.
Yeah, it's we'll see how it works. Now, if I get a ticket, then we'll see if it really worked. All I know is I put in a credit card and I hit start session. So hopefully that's going to be all I need to do. We'll see. or the rental car company will find out one way or another.
Yeah. Hold on a second. People are saying they're not getting any sound. I think we're getting sound. Everything should be spitting out sound. There's no reason why we're not.
We can hear each other.
I can hear you. You can hear me.
Let's just do a podcast.
Okay.
With
No, there's people are saying they're getting sound, so I'm gonna ignore Sean Babella, who says he's got no sound. Johnny. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit jumbled. Terry's on Skype. His connection, he's like 6 miles, I think, away from his Wi-Fi point. He's basically leeching Wi-Fi from another office, and he's down in some coffee shop. So we might get a little bit of the Cylon, the Skype Cylon, for all you Battlestar Galactica junkies out there. If you hear me yell frack, you'll know why. But anyway, so Terry, you're out in California right now, taking care of the Masters Cup, and you got to film the lead card, the primary card, the premier card, as they say, all 3 days. You had Doss and McBeth all 3 days. What was that like?
Let's just say there's a reason they're two of the best players in the world. And I've already read the comments. People have talked a lot about the different strategies while they watch the top players in the world compete at this course. And I just got to say, unless you're at Dela, unless you have your own strategy, you can't really second guess the strategy too much of the players that have been out there. It was a battle. And Johnny, I think it's pretty obvious. We're going to talk about
ambulances.
We'll talk about some of the details. Oh, sorry.
No, we're going to talk about ambulances too, so don't worry.
Yeah. One thing I was just going to say is we're going to talk about the details of the event. So if you're concerned because you have no idea who won somehow, then you probably should shut off the podcast this very second.
Spoilers.
We're even going to talk about spoilers. We'll talk about spoilers and how that can be handled. But I'll tell you right now, we're going to talk all about the Masters Cup. So if you don't want to know what happened, then just go ahead and turn it off right now. And I think that's a pretty fair warning, wouldn't you say, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know what's happened by now, I really don't think there's much we can do for you.
Yeah, and some people are purposely saying, hey, I've tried to stay off social media, or I haven't gone to the PDGA page, or I've done all these things. Are starting to more diligently take those precautions. But if you're tuned in tonight, well, then all bets are off.
If you tune into a podcast called The Masters Cup presented by DGA Wrap-Up Show, and you're wondering, and you're going to be spoiler free, I got no hope for you.
I know, I realize that, and just to answer a few of the questions on the board.
Vader, guess what? Darth Vader is Luke's dad too. I'm spoiling everything. Yeah. I'm spoiling everything tonight.
Which, on any given moment, one of us sounds like through our connection right now. But anyway, and just to answer any questions out on the board, no, I am not a little sweaty. It's absolutely gorgeous. That's just probably the resolution on the screen, but I'm not sweaty at all. It is 64, maybe 65-ish, 62, whatever, somewhere in that neighborhood, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I'm sitting outside, like I said, a coffee shop. The sun is trying to set, and it's gorgeous here. So maybe a big guy, but I'm not sweating right now. And I barely sweat this weekend. So that was pretty cool.
Really? Because you were hustling around that course, from what I could see. There were times I've watched all the coverage that you've put out except for the last 12. I haven't had a chance to do it, so don't spoil it for me on who wins.
Okay.
But there were times when it looks like you were barely in time to get a shot because you just, I mean, the edit would be just as Doss was about to putt, or I think you may have slid into a couple spots like a second baseman to get those low angles that you had.
I get low. Some of our traveling tour players know about me getting low, but it was just a matter of trying to get into position. And I gotta say, there's times where even my angle, I may be literally a foot or two behind them. Of course, trying not to distract them in any way. But even my working my hardest to give you the best angle still didn't necessarily fully depict just how challenging their lie might have been. I used to make fun of people that had the little cushions. I think they're SoFly cushions. We'll give them a free shout out.
Sure.
I used to kind of make fun of those, and I will admit I now understand, because on any given round, competitive round at De La, you are on one knee at least a half dozen times, almost no matter how good you are. So fly. So I can certainly understand why they did that, and just trying to get in position, trying to give everyone the angles. There's so many times, and you know this, of course, while you're producing our live show. I can show you a shot, and somebody can be throwing a putt, but you have no idea that they're really trying to go through a gap, only the width of their disc, or they have a super low ceiling or whatever. So I went a little bit above and beyond this weekend to make sure that I got into as many positions as I could. If I thought they had a challenging shot, I wanted to make sure to give you that angle as well.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and you're going to see some people out there screaming about it's being hung up. Looks like the bandwidth is kind of bouncing a little bit, but I think that's what's every once in a while we run into this issue that running this and Skype together seems to kind of play havoc with our system. But now everything's perfect, so I don't understand. I don't understand Skype. I don't understand Time Warner Cable.
Plugging away.
Yeah. It'll all be in the podcast if it's not in the video. Well, so everything is being recorded, so we're good.
Okay, well that's good. So yeah, it was amazing running around, giving you all the different updates, of course, and then giving you all the shot-by-shot coverage. Originally, I thought it was a little daunting to try and give you 24 holes and then turn around in a reasonable amount of time. And obviously, when you're a crew like Central Coast and they had multiple editors, God bless them, they had multiple editors. They also had multiple cameras as well, like I did. But they were able to turn it out a little bit quicker because of the extra hands on deck. And I was going to just give kind of like highlight holes or not quite shot-by-shot coverage, and kind of just pick maybe 18 of the most critical out of the 24 holes. And then I got started, and I was like, no, everybody's going to want to see every single hole.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So, and don't get too spoiled, because doing the disc selection was a lot of extra work. And I'm not trying to complain. I don't know if I'm complaining or not, but it was a ton of extra work. And the only thing that made it more palatable, so to speak, is the fact that I had Doss and McBeth, and I kind of just got to recycle their information. They literally threw, they threw 108 holes of golf this weekend.
Yeah.
Or it was, 54. Yeah, no. They threw 72 holes of golf. 24 times 3. They threw 72 holes of golf, and I would say there was only 3 disc changes. So 69 holes were the same, so to speak, if that makes sense. They threw the same disc all 3 rounds, except for, I think, 3 total times.
Sure.
Out of 72 possibilities. So that helped considerably. So, yeah, but don't get that just yet, because that's a ton of extra work. It really is. So people really seem to like it. And I didn't get Simon. He took off shortly after the round, which is why I didn't real quickly get all of the discs that he threw. So that was one of the reasons why I didn't get Simon's in there, or Kenny's the first day. He kind of took off as well. So it wasn't anything intentional or malicious by any means.
No, I don't think anybody has that
some people thought that. Oh, why didn't they show he was going against the champ? Why didn't he show that? I read comments of that nature, so okay. I will just go ahead and put it out. It wasn't intentional or malicious. So anyway, should we get to some results?
Spoilers.
Yeah,
no. Let's talk about some results. You go ahead and talk about some results. I'm going to step up real quick while you go over that. I'll be right back. So you continue.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'll give you guys is a few of the details on the master side. Honestly, I didn't see a lot of the action over there, but I can tell you that it was pretty much the talk of the event, at least during the first day, that Patrick Brown opened up with the hottest round of any person that was on the course on Friday. So Patrick opened with a 62, which was a 10 under par, unofficially rated a 1075. He then, got back to, we'll say, a little bit more moderate play by shooting a 4 under the second day and then a 1 over. So they played the exact same course, and he literally, on a 24-hole layout, had an 11-stroke swing from the first day to the final day. And thankfully for him, he didn't get quite run down, but Robert Bainbridge was hot on his tail there and came just 1 stroke short. 1 stroke behind him is the famous Facebooker in Robert Ryan, who just made another interesting post today. And then Jonathan Baldwin, your 2011 Masters World Champ, was a little off the pace in 4th place. So again, Patrick Brown, Robert Bainbridge, Rob Ryan, and Jonathan Baldwin, your top 4. Bainbridge was, in fact, him and Patrick Brown, I think, qualified for the interesting to note some stuff there. On the women's side of things, I don't want to say you hate this, or you could have guessed it, maybe is a better way to put it. Paige Pierce, who was not in the lead after the first day. In fact, she was a couple strokes off the lead, 2 strokes. She came in and shot a +4. Let me double check that. A +6 the first day, and then shot a pair of evens. And when you shoot 70 on Saturday's round, that was unofficially rated 1,005, and her par on the final day was also rated 1,000. So, I think I did some math, and it looked like Paige averaged 990 golf for the weekend. So that's 3 NTs, that's 3 wins, that's 11 PDGA tournaments for the year, and 10 victories. So she is now 10 for 11.
That's not a bad batting average. That gets you into the Hall of Fame right there, Baseball Hall of Fame. If you were 10 for 11 every time you went up to the plate.
Well, I think if you were 10 for 11 every time you stepped up to the free throw line, you'd still be a solid free throw shooter. So Paige, Katrina opened with Katrina and Valerie both open. The tournament, I think it was 4 over, and like I said, Paige was 2 off of them, and then she just settled in, and there was a really good battle actually amongst them. And when it was all said and done, Paige Pierce, your champion. I say no shocker.
No,
very impressive.
No shocker at all. I mean, there was. It looked like, I thought after the second day it was going to come down to the wire between her and Val, and then Paige just kept it up, and the other girls didn't. They weren't able to keep pace. They weren't able to keep the same pace that they had been, and Paige just kind of put it in cruise control and ended up. It looked like she just kind of cruised along at the very end.
Well, and that's a testament, and there'll be a lot of talk about it forever. That's a testament to De La. Like I just said, Patrick Brown opened with a 10 under and closed the tournament with a 1 over, an 11-stroke swing, just 48 hours later. And it just, De La is just so challenging, and there's a lot of different things going on. So it can be brutal. It can be forgiving. It can be very punishing. But when it all comes down to it, comes down to your patience and staying within your own head. And speaking of staying within your own game, there was a lot of conversation about Nate Doss with his putt on what was hole 18. It's the hole after the gravity hole, if you were watching. And they said that they really were challenging him online, saying that he should have been running at that. And I talked to Nate, actually, between 18 and 19. He had said to me something, well, that's my rule. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I made a deal with this hole many years ago that if I'm inside the circle, I run the putt. If I'm outside the circle, I lay up. And he was outside the circle, and he laid up. And he's like, I have never really taken a big number on that hole for that reason. It's got a really huge drop off behind it. And he's like, I may not get as many birdies as I'd like, but I've never taken a big number. And that's my rule. I lay up if I'm outside the circle. And he was just that, a few feet outside the circle. So I'll say that's a really dedicated pro move, especially by someone who lives there, who really knows better. And I know people want him to push, and I know people want him to be aggressive there. And I kind of thought the same thing, but I can't argue with his logic. He's a 3-time world champ for a reason. He won one of his world championships here in Santa Cruz. I'm gonna go with what he says, so I'm on board. So anyway, some of the logic. I know a lot of people were talking about it, and inside the circle on that hole, he runs it. So
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, that just, yeah, you're right. That attests to Nate and just having a plan and sticking with the plan no matter what happens. You know, you have to go in knowing not necessarily your limitations, but what you want to see out of your own play, and it's not a disappointment if you go in with that mentality. I mean, you got to play De La. You got to play De La the way De La's played.
Yeah, and it's a game plan, and it's exactly what, if that's the agreement he made with the course years ago. I can't argue with that logic.
Is that something he sits down at that hole and just talks to the tee sign for a little bit, maybe just kind of makes peace with it, maybe gives it a little blessing, and then just walks away?
I think he does, because I think when he initially walked away from the hole, he said something like, we'll see you again another day, or he said something of that nature. And I think this is exactly what he was saying. Like, well, you got me this time. Next time, if I'm inside that circle, we'll see. So it's, it was getting that insight, whether it's on camera or off, getting that insight, again, from someone who's as knowledgeable as they get about any course, was really cool. And it was, it makes perfect sense.
Sure.
So, honestly, it was right around that time I looked at the leaderboard and I thought, Nate's got to make a move. Like, he's running out of holes. And knowing they had 19 to, hole 19 was the next one. And then they played up the hill, which is 25, 26, 26A, and 27.
Yeah.
So he's got 4 or 5 holes, and he was down 2 or 3 at the time. I think he was down 3. And then Paul went out and bogeyed the very next hole, which is obviously very uncharacteristic. Any bogey for him is, but he bogeyed that same hole 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
And Nate got a stroke back there, and then they went up the hill, and there was some other amazing stuff that happened. So pretty cool. And we were sitting down in celebrating Nate's birthday afterwards on Sunday night, and it was Avery and Nate and a handful of us others, and we were actually looking at some of the footage. So instead of celebrating his birthday, we were looking at disc golf footage. But we looked at that and we saw what kind of drives both Nate and Paul had to make on that uphill on 25. And I'm sure you probably remember seeing that hole back in 2011, Johnny.
Yeah.
I think it's marked at like 399 or something, whatever. It probably plays closer to 500.
No, it was 20.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. No, 25. I'm thinking
25 is up the hill.
Yeah, that's the one that McBeth said was his favorite hole or his second favorite hole or something there, because it's the second least or least deuced. Well, I guess the second least behind 4 deuced hole on that course. And then McBeth, I think the second round got it, and he was pretty pumped about it.
exactly. So McBeth gets it from the circle's edge on Saturday, and then on Sunday, Doss throws first, throws a really nice shot, puts it just outside of the circle. And my comment to both Avery and Nate that night was, I've never seen McBeth run up the way he did. Like, he wanted to get on it, so to speak. I've seen him throw probably thousands of shots by now, and that was the most I've seen him put into a single run up or tee. Like, he had more on it,
Sure.
and he had the result of putting it, 8 or 12 feet short. And I just thought it was really interesting. It was something that I noted. It jumped out at me the second I watched it happen. Wow, he's getting at it, and he needed a little extra power. And Doss makes the putt. Doss was saying at that point, he said, knew I needed to make that because Paul was right there now for the deuce, and he's like, this is do or die. I need this birdie. And because again, he was just about to start running out of holes, and then he canned a huge birdie putt.
Yeah.
Paul still made his putt, and then they moved on to 25 or 26. Nate got his. They both had great drives and putts on 26A, which we didn't play in 2011 Worlds. And then on 27, Nate just didn't put enough on it he didn't put enough on it to get his wasp to the basket.
Sure.
And that was kind of that. So there's, I talk about them at the end of the video of my video blog. I talk about their thoughts and their strategies and what they all said. So you can go out and watch all of that for yourself. But it was amazing because I watched every single shot both of them threw for the weekend, and to see the battle, but yet the camaraderie was just awesome. I think they're two of the classiest guys anywhere in our disc golf community.
And they both,
they
both respect each other. They both, can, I think they both realize that Nate. I mean, it's hard to say Nate's on the downside of his career when he's taking second at the Masters, but it is his home course. He does have his focus in other places, and I think everybody, even Paul, or I'm sorry, even Nate had said during one of your interviews that Paul is the best in the world. I mean, there's no question about it. They all know it. And I think Nate was. Now, you hung out with Nate for his birthday on Sunday night. Was there any kind of hemming or hawing? Was he more disappointed in this one? Because clearly it was his birthday and he's never won it, and he really wants it. He's got 10 more years to get it before he goes Masters.
I would emphatically say absolutely not.
Good.
And that to me says so much about him and his character. He knows that he needs to bring his A game. Saying like, oh, if I were to shoot like an 8 or a 9 or a 10 or something that should secure it. Mm-hmm. Well, sure enough, he didn't shoot that many. I forget, he must have shot like a 7 or 8 or something. Yeah. And McBeth got him by shooting a 10. And he knows that if he wants to win, he needs to bring his A+ game out on Sunday, and he needs to somehow keep McBeth off his heels. And we've said it a million times, like, McBeth up by 5 or down by 5, he's still in striking distance. And I know they said that about Tiger all the time, but he's always in striking distance.
Especially at De La, where anything can happen. He could have come out. He could have come out and shot a 13 or a 14 at De La if things went right, or a 3 or a 4. That's just the way De La works.
Well, and the testament to that is, and I can't emphasize it enough, exactly what you're saying, how anything can happen. If you said to any of the foursomes that I covered all weekend that Greg Barsby was going to take a triple circle 7 on a hole, or a triple penalty 7 on a hole, I bet you one of the very last guesses would have been hole number 6.
Yeah, I mean, which is what, like 350 with the road right behind it or something like that?
370, 380,
okay.
Downhill, very reachable. The road is directly behind it, and there is OB to the right. If you're looking at the tee, there's OB to the right. But if you said to someone, all right, Greg Barsby's going to take a triple penalty 7, what hole would it be? you would have somebody list about 10 other
Yeah, I was gonna say
holes
6 other holes where people
at
would think
least.
that.
At least. Yeah. So it that just, I guess, it emphasizes Dave all weekend too in rounds 2 and 3 with Barsby specifically. He would take a 4 or a 5 or a whatever on one hole, and then he'd come right back with the next hole and get a birdie too.
Yeah.
And he was a little more, we'll say, roller coaster than some of the others. But every time he struggled, he answered and he came back and he'd come back strong. But he gave away a lot of over par strokes in various places throughout the weekend. Yeah. And he's one of the best players in the world as well. So very, very impressive. What Paul and Nate were doing, and the fact that through 48 holes of golf, Nate had 1-4. And it was ironically the same hole that Paul for'd twice.
Yeah, it's
throughout the.
It's not if I remember correctly, that's not a tough hole. I mean,
it's really not.
It's
of all the holes out there.
Yeah, of all the holes, it's a little tricky. That's not the gravity hole. That's the one you're kind of coming.
2 after that.
Yeah, you're coming back, and then the road is on your left.
Correct.
And it just, they got caught up. Both of them looked like they got caught up and couldn't get to the basket from where they were. And then, it is what it is there.
And it's really genuinely not that hard of a hole. No. I mean, I'm not saying it's an easy hole, but I'm saying it's not that hard of a hole that you would say, oh yeah, between Paul and Nate, they're gonna have 3 bogeys on that this weekend. You wouldn't have said that either.
No.
So, again, I know it almost sounds like a broken record. I know a lot of people just chuckle it off, but Dela is Dela, and there's a lot of very special, unique, yet challenging qualities to it. And I think even our leader card all 3 rounds exemplified that. So
yeah, it almost, I mean, Dela is a classic course, but it does seem like luck plays into it a little bit more at this course than any other course. I mean, you're still getting the same guys at the top because, unless one of them has a ridiculously unlucky day, they're all playing smart. They're all playing to win. But that's the type of course. I mean, round 1, watching Kenny hit the basket and then roll back behind him 40 feet. It's things like that where he could have laid that one up and it would have happened. It's a little dumb luck. When the best players are going to win, the mediocre players are going to be in the middle. But that course, I think, of any of the other courses we see on the tour, has more roll the dice factor than anything else.
Well, funny, you didn't even know you were setting me up for that, but I did a little homework. And go figure. I can tell you that there was a 70-person field of Open. Mm-hmm. There were 10 players that are rated 1,000 and above that did not cash. Wow. So just think about that. 10 players, and Ken Climo was on the cut line of cash before he played his final round, for example, as was Steve Rico, best players of all time. Mm-hmm. So there were 10 players that were 1,000 rated that did not cash. However, there were 6 players that are sub 1,000 that did cash.
Yeah, I was going to ask how many sub 1,000 players. No, I mean, a couple of those could just be, it could be a little bit of luck. Yeah, it could be, I'll say this. It is unlikely that you are going to shoot a good round there due to luck. It is more likely that you're going to shoot a bad round due to bad luck. People don't go to Dela and get lucky and score well. You score well because you shoot well. You score poorly because you're unlucky. I'll say that about that course. You hit your lines, you land relatively flat, you get close, you put your putts in. It's not, I mean, it's any other course. But you maybe kiss a tree here or there, or you run at a long putt, you hit and roll, because it's got to be a different mentality when these guys walk up to 40-footers normally and without a thought. They have zero qualms about running at them. But in this course, you have to have qualms, so to speak. You have to know. You have to know that you have the chance of adding multiple digits to your score.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and steal Dana's work since he's out playing golf at Golden Gate or some other course. Must be nice that he's got all this time. I know he just got into town or into the area today, so I'm gonna do his work for him, and I'll go ahead and give out the big hug, our hashtag big hug. I'm gonna give it. It's gonna be a quad pack, and it looks like all four of these gentlemen are rated over 1,000, and they all missed cash by a single stroke. So,
Ouch.
Ray Johnson, Max Nichols, Email Dahlgren, and Chandler Fry. Hashtag big hug to you guys. All rated 1,000 plus, and all shot 216 on the weekend, which was even par for the weekend, and you guys missed the cash by a single stroke. So, hashtag big hug to you guys.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
And I bet you talk to any of them and they're going to tell you 3 stories about mistakes that they made or non-mistakes that turned out poorly for them.
Yeah, so it's and as I said, there were 6 people. Kevin James is saying Brody Miller's below 1,000. He was one of the that were below 1,000. Aaron Konachek, who's actually a Wisconsin native, where we're from, he's now living out here. He's sub 1,000. He cashed. He snuck into the cash. So it just, you won't find that too often, that you have 10 guys over 1,000 who don't cash, but 6 guys under 1,000 who do. And so there's a little story, some statistician could probably do way more with it than what I just did. But that was one of the interesting stats that I found earlier, with just how challenging the course can be. One of the questions somebody just said on the board, and I'll reiterate it. You must not have watched my coverage. I'm going to call you out. Ken Climo played open because of a couple of things. Mainly the number one reason he played open. Johnny, do you remember?
Yeah, I watched the interview. It's the USDGC spot. He's looking to get into the USDGC. He hasn't, it sounds so strange to say, but he hasn't qualified yet. He doesn't have does he have an automatic qualification for being a former winner? No, just the previous year's winner has the automatic qualification, I believe.
And I guess I may. No, nobody. Let's a couple things. First of all, I have to correct myself. That shouldn't really be his number one. I guess I wouldn't say that was his number one, because you can technically, at this event, you can earn it in the master spot. As I just said, Bainbridge did, as did Patrick Brown. So you can, because you're playing the exact same courses for the exact same length of time. So he could have gotten that spot in the master spot. So that wasn't his top concern. His true top concern was, he thinks and knows he can be competitive at this course because it doesn't really favor distance. So it was kind of both of those things. He knew that he can get the same pars and the same birdies as everyone else out there, because there's not too many bonus birdies out there that a McBeth is going to get that Kenny's not. I mean, of a win, McBeth can get 25, which I don't see probably Kenny getting too often these days. Outside of that, there's some holes that are closer to par 4s that they're really not a high ball. That's not a hole that McBeth's likely going to deuce even on his best day, and Kenny's not likely going to deuce it. So Kenny was comfortable thinking, well, I'm going to get the same 3 that they will. So he felt that he was competitive still in the open division, and that's why he didn't play Masters.
Yeah.
So it couldn't have been just the USDGC. Now I'll speak to that. I confirmed with him, and there are this many exemptions to the USDGC.
That surprises me. I mean, not that the guy who won last year isn't going to qualify somewhere else, but I would think that the previous, if you were going to give one exemption, I would think it's the previous year winner. Not necessarily all previous year winners, but at least the previous year winner.
There are 0 exemptions to the USDGC. Kenny clarified that with me. I think it might have been for the first round or during a practice round. Must have been first round. Before the first round, he clarified there is 0 exemptions to the USDGC right now. So, a guy who's won it 5 times, he's obviously the best player on the planet right now. He earns his way into the USDGC at this point. So, pretty crazy. So yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I was trying to read all of the other comments of the other people that we're talking about. I know that the one person had asked.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know we're running into
Go ahead.
some traffic issues, so I told everyone we're gonna upload a better version of this right afterwards. I'll make sure it gets uploaded tonight because I don't think we're gonna go extremely late tonight, so I'll have some time. But until then, we're just gonna keep jabbering on like we always do.
Okay. I'm trying to just think if there's anything else. I mean, there's obviously more stuff that I can reference, but that was the meat and the potatoes. I threw a lot of people off by posting an Instagram photo of Nate hoisting up this enormous, gorgeous trophy, and somebody said, "Why was second place's trophy bigger than first?" And one of the cool things, again, on his 30th birthday, on the 30th anniversary of this event, Nate was also then given the Steady Ed Hedrick Spirit or Sportsmanship Award, and just again, if you know Nate, you know that he's a class act. Of course, he's a class act off the course. He takes his disc golf very seriously. He takes being a professional very seriously, and everything that embodies that award is everything that I feel Nate Doss is. So it was very fitting. It's a very, very big secret as to who is about to win it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome to see. And so just before the award ceremony had kicked off, they brought him up there and gave him the award, and understandably he got choked up. He was telling us stories afterward about how on days off from school, whether they were scheduled or required or
playing hooky,
on
maybe?
days off from school, or forced hooky, if that's a word, phrase that you can draw your own conclusions. He would go help out at the DGA factory, and Steady Ed would pay him in discs, and would. I hope there's no child labor laws. Anyway,
or IRS action.
He would. Nate would work all day, and he'd drill holes in the poles for the baskets, and he'd do stamping. He'd do all sorts of things at the shop, and Steady Ed would have him come in and would then hand him a disc. And so, of course, Nate, who's not really a collector of many things or of many discs, as he's told me in the past, he has a bunch of those discs. So Steady Ed was kind of like a very much like a father figure, and always believed in him, and always had him around the shop. And Nate's dad worked at the shop, and it was just really cool. And I know that, Steady Ed would be more than ecstatic about, having Nate's name on that really gorgeous trophy by DGA.
Yeah, that thing looked. I think I saw a picture of you. I don't know if you were helping him hoist it up or interviewing him when he had it, but that thing was big.
Yes, it's huge. It's really heavy. I said I said in my interview, hey, let's try and hoist this up so people can see it better. It's heavy. It's very heavy. So that's the trophy that I believe. I don't think he gets to take it with him. I'm not sure. I don't think he does. I think that resides at DGA all year long, but his name's been put on it, and again, couldn't have been more fitting and more deserving of a guy to get it. So it was pretty cool to see. Some of the comments that I'm reading out there, some people had talked about it, and I feel like it's not just comments on the board, but it's also comments that are made in the comment section, whether it's Facebook or YouTube. So I would say that was some frustration out there, whether it was a little bit out of Paul, a little bit really out of every player. I can't even single anyone out. Paul at one point or at a few points expressed a little frustration, as did Nate, as did Ken Climo, as did Greg Barsby.
Yeah.
Every single one of them at some point, and of course they're all competitive by nature.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, and some more than others, expressed a little bit of frustration out there, because, as they say, can make you crazy.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see that, because usually, somebody said earlier, see Paul really express any emotion of frustration.
Yeah, and it looked
you
like
saw it a number of times through my video.
From what I saw, it was you could see Paul was being a little bit more frustrated in the earlier days with his putt. He seemed to miss a few that he didn't expect to miss. His drives seemed like they were pretty well spot on. I mean, as well as can be out there. Nate, I would say if 50-50 between his drives and putts when he was frustrated. that he maybe didn't throw it in the right spot. Kenny, I think, was just frustrated that he's watching these other guys just dominate, and he couldn't keep up, and he had a couple unfortunate events, and everyone was. I mean, if you listen closely, you can hear people mutter things under their breath, whether it's Paul or Nate. You hear a lot of like, "Come on," and I think that's more at themselves than anything else, not doing what they expect to do.
Well, I agree, and I think what was frustrating specifically about Kenny was it felt like it was compounding. He felt
Sure.
like every time there was a chance to get a break, it wasn't in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
And you've clearly played, I've played, we've all played. Getting one or two bad breaks is one thing, but when it seems or feels like every break is bad for you, I don't think it was so much about the other players. I don't think it was too much about his skill sets. He was just genuinely frustrated that he just couldn't seemingly catch a break at any point.
Sure.
And I can understand that. One of the other big stories of the weekend, and I got to admit, unfortunately, I don't know every detail, but of course, another story, something we just talked about last week, Devin Owens hitting the ace on the gravity hole, and then it sounded like a day later, it was ultimately, was it on? I'm still confused at whether it was a top 10 or not, and I've been so busy editing, I didn't do all the research. Does anyone out there know for sure? Was it a top 10?
All I heard,
or I saw it was on their Twitter feid, and it was on their.
That's all I saw was on the Twitter feed. I don't have ESPN at home, so I'm not sure. And there was, I didn't see anything. Nobody was definitive about it getting on SportsCenter on Facebook that I saw.
Okay, but it was definitely talked about. They showed the shot like 7 times. I saw ESPN a clip, and it showed they were talking about it, and they literally just hit it up, put it on replay, and showed it going in, I think 6 times. So if you wanted to know what an ace looks like, there's definitely they definitely learned through that clip. So that was pretty cool. Congratulations, of course, Central Coast out there, working their tails off just as I was. And they captured the ace. Like I said, on the gravity hole, I think I allude to it in the final 9 that I put up at the final 12. Paul McBeth, I think, was on the tee getting ready to throw on 16, and then you hear this enormous roar, and sure enough, it was the ace on. So you know what? I'm going to tell everybody I got the ace too then, because
you got the audio of the ace. Way to go!
I got the audio from 400 feet away. So yeah. Anyway, congratulations again, Central Coast, Ian, and all of the guys that were out there doing a phenomenal job, hustling around, getting as much coverage as they could, and then it doesn't matter who you work for or what you do, whether it's live or recorded or on your phone or otherwise. Anytime you capture an ace on video, there's like this sense of gratification, like, yes, something just paid off, and you're not even getting any money for it, but that feeling though of like, I just captured one of the coolest things that can happen in our sport, and I have it right here, and I captured it. So I know what that sounds like to get it, not a Billy's even necessarily, but any ace that I've gotten on film. It sends tingles, through your body anytime you can get somebody else's ace. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, looking at some of the other things on the board, one of the big conversation pieces was people either second guessing, some people applauding, some people not. I don't know what the other word would be. Some people asking. I did not do commentary, and there was a couple reasons for it.
Now, people have to understand that, and I think I'll steal your thunder a little bit. Dela is a tight course. There's not a lot of places for you to hide. And a lot of courses, you can kind of take a step or two back, maybe turn away from the player. There's not a lot of spots for you to kind of get away. And if there's one complaint people have, it's like, oh my God, Terry, I think so-and-so heard Terry say that comment, because maybe they'll look back at you, and whether or not they heard or they're just looking back. I think that's one of the big things that people are like, oh, should Terry be out there talking about these guys' shots? And I always say, nothing Terry's going to say is something they're not already thinking. It's not like you're
Yeah.
insulting them, you're describing the shot. So at De La, it's tough to get away from the players at all, much less commentate on what they're doing. So you made a decision to not commentate?
Yeah, there was a couple different, theories to it. Everything you just said about the sheer proximity, and even taking that a step further, even if I were to play and not the players that were actually throwing on the tee I was covering, I could have very easily been distracting someone else in another nearby fairway or tee or basket. I mean, like you said, that course has very tight quarter, very close proximity.
All right, go ahead. We're gonna.
All right.
We stand
All
out.
right,
Stand
no
up.
problem.
Oh no.
Yep.
Yep. No. Is it coming? Going? I don't know. Someone at your coffee shop have a mild stroke or something?
I don't know, but I think I have to turn. I literally have to turn off the app that tells me I'm paying. I think I have to log in and hit a button and say, "Oh, stop paying for the."
Oh, really?
Stop paying. Yeah. Anyway, so what I was saying is that the proximity of it. So even if I weren't to be distracting somebody on the tee, there's a good chance I'm distracting somebody on a nearby hole. So that all got factored into it. And then I thought for sure, well, when I get home or get back to my host, Sherman, the man, when I get back to his place, I'll do post round commentary. Well, I started to do it. I started to record it, and it didn't have the same feel and vibe to it, especially because it was like 2:30 in the morning. And I wasn't happy with how it really sounded. I mean, quality wise, it was, in terms of audible quality, no problem. Just the intone and the inflection and everything that I would want to say, and doing it alone and watching it, even though I know what happens, it felt weird to me. And so at that point, I made a conscious decision and said, all right, this whole weekend, I'm not going to do any live commentary. However, as I've kind of hinted out there, I may take either some shots or some of the rounds and go back and now redo them and then post another version with commentary, which, may be its own test. If I get 0 views or 5 views, I may or may not do that again. But for the sake of this event and making sure I got the absolute best footage I possibly could of bringing you the action, I decided to stand down on the commentary. And I'm flattered, honestly, I'm flattered by anyone and everyone that made any kind of reference or comment saying that they missed the commentary. I appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback, good and bad. And so I do appreciate it. And I want to obviously stick to my normal game. But this event just had a little bit different vibe and a different feel. And it was different for me. And I'll tell you this. It is
Tell me, Terry.
times. It is 100, not 100. It's 10 times easier to film a round of golf like I did all weekend without having my own commentary in there. In terms of just mental capacity,
well, and
it's 10 times easier.
I mean, I'm sure editing after the fact is better, is easier too, because you don't have to worry about cutting yourself off. If you want to clip a shot right after it hits the basket and goes in, you don't have to worry about editing yourself out if you happen to talk for another 3, 4, 5 seconds. So,
Correct.
It could save a little time here and there. Personally, I say don't bother going back and doing a commentary. And I know maybe you'll do it just to play with it, but I think what you put out was good enough. It was good, not just good enough. It was good, and I don't think you really need to go back and kind of delve into that. Maybe you just do it for the next event, or you don't, depending on the course. I think you're fine leaving it the way it is. But
yeah, and we'll see. Like I said, I'm going to play around with it. We'll see what kind of time I have. Of course, I've got the St. Jude event this weekend, and now I have a ton of other footage with a lot of other cool things that I want to do with it. And I'll admit that grabbing that footage, even though it's pretty much in a single file, grabbing that footage and then going back in a week or a month or further out and then trying to do commentary, I will see.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to make any promises. We'll see what's going to happen. It may or may not happen. but it was a learning experience. But I feel like it benefited my coverage, and it may have taken away for a few people, but I still feel like the camera work and what we did there was my the most critical thing that I've done.
Yeah.
And I'll speak to the camera work real quickly.
Yep.
Let me speak to that. It was tough. I didn't get a chance to see anything by the other 2 or 3 film crews out there. I know I was talking to the Central Coast guys, and I know they had 2 cameras. Covering that course is because even when you have a second cameraman, and I had my amazing host Bill Sherman helping me out, even when he knows the course, he's from around here, he was in position for where most of the discs are going to land, but that still doesn't mean you're going to see a blind shot coming in and you're going to pick it up in the camera because A, that's tough, and B, there's still probably stuff around where he is.
Yeah.
Look at hole 4 is a great example. A couple of those, the valley shot on 15, those are places where you could have 5 cameras out there, and I'm not sure you're going to get much better coverage.
Yeah,
simply because tracking the disc is so challenging out there. So not making excuses. I'm telling everyone out there, it's that tough. It really is.
You can focus because when you're sitting at one of those blind shots, you can focus on the gap that you're fairly certain they're coming down, and it might not ever get there. It might not hit that gap. It might be 2 gaps over. It might, it might hit the gap and ricochet real quickly. And it's really hard without tracking the disc straight out of the hand to just kind of sit there, wait, and hope a disc is going to come, even if you're recording the entire time. You're sitting there just waiting. So, yeah, I'll be curious. I'll go back and look at some of the other guys and see if they had a much better process. But from what
maybe they did.
I watched the women's coverage, and I mean, I think that was just one camera too. So there was really no difference between some of the choices that he made and some of the choices you made. So
sure. So I just wanted everyone to know that it's just tough. And I was talking with Scott Kesey, general manager from DGA, who had worked on making sure that I came out here, and him and I had the same conversation today that it was really, really challenging. It's a tough course to cover, and I know there's other courses out there that are going to have similar problems. Like just sometimes, like I said, even with 2 or 3 cameramen, it's really hard to get into a really good position to do what you can. And that's maybe where commentary comes in, because commentary allows you to talk about things that people can't see.
And that's what I was going to say before you talked about that. Of all the courses where commentary might be advantageous, it's this one where there's a lot of blind shots, where maybe a description of a hole is that much more important. It's also that much more difficult on this particular course to, like we say, commentate as well as that second camera. It's unfortunate that it's a 2-sided coin. You either commentate and possibly distract players, or you hope that the camera work does the work for you. Picture is worth 1,000 words, they say, Ter.
And I try and get 998 of them in each frame. So there's again, those are some of the pros and cons. So people want to know our thought process. I'm obviously an open book about it.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things that went into it. And of course, as we already know, no matter what I do, some people are going to like it one way, some people are going to like it the other way, the exact that's fine. But that's some of the thought process, and I feel like I'm not sure you can. What do they say? Your opinion can't be wrong. Facts can be, but or how you feel can't be wrong. So, anyway,
I disagree.
So some conversation out there that's also going on the board talks about the Sports Center Ace. We kind of talked about it last time, and I know we just talked about the ace, but again, going back to it, does it devalue when we have certain aces on there, or is it good or bad that they might become more commonplace?
It's good.
If there's an ace a month on SportsCenter, let's just throw out a number and say 1 ace per month on SportsCenter. Is that a bad thing?
No, not at all. I think it's a good thing. It means that our sport's getting out there. Does it devalue the other aces? Yeah, slightly, that have been on there previously, but that's part of growing. That's part of getting bigger. It doesn't. I'll say this: it probably doesn't devalue it to Nate, to Billy. It might devalue it for what other people think of that, but to those guys, they're on SportsCenter, and there's not a lot of disc golfers that can honestly say that they've made it on SportsCenter or ESPN for that
Very
matter. So,
Yeah,
in the long run, yes. I mean, just like, I'm sure the first guy that ever got a half court shot put up on ESPN thought it was spectacular, and now it's kind of like, oh look, so and so hit a half quarter, way to go. So yeah, it does in the long run devalue it, but it just, like I said, it just goes to show how much our sport is growing.
Yeah, and it's pretty awesome. Again, congrats to Central Coast, congrats to Devin. I don't know, but as Kevin McCoy pointed out, it has now been 2 of the 3 both been from Oklahoma. So I don't know.
Bunch of Okies.
Maybe Jennifer Allen. Yeah, maybe Jennifer Allen's going to be the next. That'd be awesome for obviously to have any woman disc golfer on there would be awesome. Yeah. But Jennifer Allen, maybe she's got the rest from Oklahoma herself. I'm gonna have to ask her about that. If the stars align just right. Again, a comment on the board saying the women's coverage was tough because the camera was in the middle of the fairway too often, is what Ken was saying here. I'll speak to that. Like, those are some of the choices you have to make. Like, where do you want to be? Are you trying to get the shot halfway through? Are you over their shoulder? Are you going to just try and blindly get the catch? And if you're a one-man operation, obviously you're trying to get as much of the throw as possible. And so I'm sure what he had to do was grab different angles than what we were grabbing. And in some cases, it probably worked out really well. And in some cases, it probably didn't. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, a couple of the shots, and I think I mentioned it to you, that I saw, it's probably really difficult because he's in the middle of the fairway, and they make it to him, and he's got to whip around and then refocus on the disc and find where it lands.
Sure.
Not necessarily. I mean, it can make for some really cool-looking shots, but it can also make for some difficult follow-ups, I think. So it's an artistic choice he does, so.
Yeah, and Ken had also said adding to the wish list having a pro who was just on the card to help do commentary and post. Spin TV does a phenomenal job of that, and one of the reasons they do a phenomenal job is because they have a phenomenal editor who grabs the footage immediately up front. He immediately starts putting it together, which is generally what I do, and then they have some additional, I'll say, funding and technology that allows them, and support that allows them, and then they always have the access. They always have, there's almost we'll say a contractual, but not really. I don't want to put words in my own mouth, but there, like I mean, let's put it this way. The main editor, or one of the main editors from Spin TV is Jamie Thomas. Jamie Thomas is more often than not in the exact same RV with Simon Lizotte.
And Avery a lot of times, possibly. So
and yes, and a lot of times Avery, and they're usually one RV behind where Paul McBeth is going.
Yeah.
So they have access to them. Not that I don't have access in a would they do it sort of way, but they have access to, hey, we can knock out this commentary Sunday night. We can knock out this commentary Monday or Tuesday.
We can knock it out while we drive to the next event.
Exactly. So they have some built-in luxuries in that way. I do want to get to some of that stuff, and I know that we can, but they have some luxuries that are built in for that reason. So and that's why their stuff's so good.
Yeah.
They do a phenomenal job, of course. So,
well, let's take a break real quick. We have a sponsor. We have a sponsor tonight. It is the one and only DGA, who helped you particularly get out there, and you did some work for them, and you're going to continue to do. You did some work today for them, so some spots and tomorrow, and knowing Scott Kesey the way we do, probably for the rest of our lives, he'll probably hold it over our heads. We love Scott, and we like DGA. So to take a break, we're going to take a minute here, and quite literally probably 1 minute, and show you this phenomenal commercial by DGA.
The Mach X by DGA, the evolution of disc golf.
And we're back. Back. Guess who's back? Back again. Terry and Johnny are back. Tell your friends.
And just like that, 1 second, I just had to click. My parking meter has expired because parking is paid until 8 p.m. where I'm at. And according to this, they're going to bill me $2.15.
That's pretty snazzy.
It is. At first, it didn't work. I had my PayPal account linked to it. And then I had to link actually something else to it. But yeah, it's in a number of cities across the country. And there's a little code right on the specific meter I park next to. And then I had to download the app and do all that stuff. And I loaded it in and attached now a credit card to it. And I am in. And the app is called Park Mobile.
Park
built
Mobile.
in Atlanta. Park Mobile. And it looks like it's in a bunch of different cities around the country. So I could now take this app, and if I went and parked in some other city, obviously, that has this feature, I can just pay right on my phone. Because I was digging around, like everybody does these days, digging around for change.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to fill up the meter before coming and doing this. And I didn't have enough change, and I didn't want to go into a coffee shop and then ask for change without buying anything. And yeah. So here we are. I know this is not a fake backdrop. Again, thanks to Stan Pratt, I am down below his office, which is a coffee shop. I'm down below it, and then I'm connected to their Wi-Fi. And so yeah.
You should probably just ask those people around you if they want to join us on the podcast. We're getting a lot of their conversation. So
that's weird.
Oh wow.
They'll say this. I was flattered. I went out to I was down by the Santa Cruz Beach boardwalk today, and I had walked around. I took a ton of different pictures. I did a whole bunch of stuff. Literally just walked up and down the boardwalk. Actually, dare I use the R word, I almost sort of relaxed even for a couple hours. And I was just sitting there watching a bunch of volleyball being played, and a gentleman walked up and said, "Hey, you're the disc golf guy, aren't you?"
Oh, geez.
And I said, "Yeah." And he introduced himself. His name is Garrett, and he didn't play this. He says he doesn't play tournaments too often, but apparently he takes in most of my video blog footage, and introduced himself, and it was pretty cool. We had a big conversation. He tells me that he goes in and out of disc golf to then do volleyball, where there's a tournament down at the Santa Cruz Beach this weekend, and he's competing in that. And he should, because he's taller than you, and you're 6'6".
Wow.
And yeah, should I assume he throws further than you too? I don't know.
Probably
but anyway, he said that he watches my stuff, and so it was kind of cool. You know, I'm just randomly hanging out at the Santa Cruz boardwalk, and a gentleman introduced himself as he watches my stuff. So that was kind of cool.
Well,
but anyway,
that's nice.
All right.
So you said that parking app was built in Atlanta?
It says built in Atlanta. Is
Built
what it
in
says right on the
Atlanta.
app.
Would you call that Hotlanta?
You could.
Like the Hotlanta 2015 presented by Prodigy Discs?
What? Is there another event that happened?
There is. We have I believe it's an A tier here for in Hotlanta. We have Will Shoestrick winning the event handily by, it looked like, about 8 strokes. He picked up 4 of them in the last round, two in the other 2 rounds over Matt Dollar. Those were, there was a couple other notables there. Josh Childs was finished about 8th, something like that. There's Brad Ramsey, Matt Dollar, James Cole out in the area. So that was that's the Hotlanta area. Masters, Matt Peckham, tied with Phil Arthur.
Okay.
I don't know who won. I think Phil Arthur won.
Who's ever on top? The PDGA
Peckham.
bit should have
Okay,
been
Peckham
cited,
won then.
so-
Because
Yeah,
I did hear a story about how Peckham, he was talking, there was a thread, and Peckham was saying how he was up, I believe, by 2 strokes going into the last hole, and it was a talk about spotters, and he threw a disc up, it was a longer hole, I don't know what course they played, and it was lost. So they actually, rather than sending a spotter up, he had to come all the way back, and I think he took either a 4 or a 5, and then Phil Arthur took a 2 or a 3, tied him on the last hole, where then they went into a playoff.
Wow.
So Yeah, so
Wow.
he took a lost. I'm fairly certain he took a lost disc on his last hole to tie, and so if he's up on top, then he did end up pulling out the win over Phil. But that's kind of that'd be an unfortunate way to lose. I'll say that. So I guess good for him for pulling that out.
I mean, speaking of Prodigy and Will Schusterick, I mean, in a similar sense, he didn't end up losing, of course, the Memorial a couple years ago, but he didn't, tally up his scorecard and then got the 2-stroke penalty, and McBeth shot that round of, 15 under par, and then ended up tying him when it was all said and done. So pretty impressive. Wow, yeah, it's rough to lose on something like that. But that's why you play them all, and there's something to be said about knowing what you're doing with all the rules.
Yeah, we also have an event out in Colorado. No surprise, Joe Rovier took that one home. He actually he won by 3 strokes over Josh Barber, and then Josh Barber beat our little friend Eagle McMahon, our little friend. He's little in age. Size, he's probably catching up to you easily. He looks like he's a relatively skinny, tall kid. So
I was gonna say some got double and then some on his weight, but
he's 17.
Yes.
Give him time. But Eagle took 3rd out there, so we hope to have Eagle on a podcast coming up pretty soon. Some other notables in there. Mike Worm Young makes an appearance out there, taking 7th. I know he's been out on the tour scene a little bit more this year and last. Masters, Stokely wins another Masters event. This time he won by, it looks like, 8 strokes over Tom Carrillo. So Stokely kind of making his presence known in the Masters field. I'll be curious to see what he does for some of the larger events if he goes to them, like your Worlds and your maybe a couple other NTs, whether he dips his toe back in the open field or he hangs out in that Masters field where he probably should be.
He might be getting kind of comfortable taking down victories. I think that's 3 consecutive Masters wins for him.
Wisconsin, Illinois, and then here in Colorado. And he shot 3. I'm assuming he knows the course pretty well, seeing as how it's Colorado. Federal Heights, I don't know exactly where that is in relation to where he was, but he shot 3,000 rated rounds, 1,002, 1,016, and 1,008. So he's on the upswing, we'll put it that way. But there's a couple. I'll say this: I'm looking at that Masters field. There's a couple low PDGA numbers. There's his at 3140, Jeff Hungerford at 688, and Paul Houston, Hooston, Houston at 396. PDGA number 396. So that's that's quite a low PDGA field as far as number wise.
Absolutely.
You don't see a lot of.
Cool. There's a lot of
3-digit players out there because we had this discussion last week. So
yeah, exactly. No, that's pretty cool. Eagle McMahon said that he shot a great last round to get where he did, to finish where he did, and as you just said, Johnny, I'm excited to announce that we're going to have at some point soon, we'll have Eagle McMahon on the show, and I also confirmed this week that Ken Climo says he would love to join. Yeah, Climo, Kenneth Climo, I think they call him. Ken Climo is going to be joining the podcast. I'm going to see if I can shift and divert a little bit of the audio so that it's a little more direct. I'm not sure if that adjusted my lighting or not, but anyway.
You look tanner now. Way to go.
So, yeah, there we go. Makeup. I'm still not sweating. It's actually getting a little chilly.
No,
I bet you I'm telling you, I bet you it's in the 50s now, and I'm just sitting here.
It was like a high of 55 here or something today, so I don't want to hear your crap.
There is a little iron. There was a little irony. They were saying that it was played at the Lulu course.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you, there's some irony. I am at Lulu's coffee shop.
Oh my, really?
I'm just saying, like, honestly, that's a little bit ironic, wouldn't you say? Anyway.
Coincidence, not ironic, but whatever.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. It is. It's a coincidence that I am sitting at a coffee shop in downtown Santa Cruz, and we were just talking about an event. And if we both said, oh, it was played on Luther King Drive, like, no big deal. Every city's got one. But seriously, Lulus and Lulus. I mean,
It was meant to be, Terry.
like, yes, our podcast. All right. Anything else that we need to cover? I mean, I know this has been kind of a hectic night. I'm super excited about the St. Jude event. Players are coming into town. Will Schustrick, who you just spoke of,
Yep.
I don't know why he wasn't playing in the Masters Cup. I'm sure there's a story that I'll get. He might have been on the wait list, but I'm going to check in with him this week. I know Dana Vici, Dynamite, he just got into town today. He flew into San Francisco and went out and played some courses. Good for him instead of working. I know Paige Pierce and Madison and Drew Gibson and that whole crew, along with Don Smith and Sarah Holcomb. I know they're a couple hours south of here. They were doing some ball golfing today, so I talked to them. I know Nate Doss and Avery and that whole crew and Val and Leah are all hanging out in Santa Cruz visiting Nate's parents who live here. So there's like players that are scattered everywhere, and it would be great if we could wrangle for the show tonight, but it just didn't kind of work out that way because again they're just everywhere throughout here. And then of course the event is going on. I'm in downtown Santa Cruz, obviously. The event is in Seaside, which is about 30 minutes straight south of here. And obviously I'm excited to bring you all the updates and information I can from there, but it's about 30 minutes south from here. So like I said, everybody is scattered everywhere, and it's pretty crazy.
And I don't want people to think.
Thanks, Eagle.
Go ahead. What was Eagle saying?
He was saying that this is. He says that's a flattering angle.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
he must.
Well, it's a nice angle. You've got looks like the heater behind you, and the lights came on outside. So
lights are on. The lights are on. The heater is not.
Yeah, well, and then it just kind of changed, and you're up a little higher now, so it doesn't look like your chin is kind of resting on the bottom of our screen. But I did want to say, I don't want to seem like we're very North American centric. So there was an A tier over in Finland, I'm going to massacre some names, so this should be fun. In Pori, Finland.
Yeah, there you go.
So the coming out on top was our very good player, international Seppo Paju, over Pasi Koivu, and that's as far as I'm going. So,
that's all you can pronounce.
I believe the next one is Yanni Hirsamaki. So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
we'll go with it.
Yeah. Congratulations to Seppo out there. Hopefully, we'll get to see him later this year at like Worlds and USDGC and some of the other big North American events. So maybe he'll come over here after the whole European swing, because I know all those guys are going over there, and then they are going to all turn around and come back after about 2 to 3 weeks. So maybe he'll join them then to kind of get some of the other NTs in on this side of the pond.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his plans are. I know he's been busy traveling and touring over there. He may or may not have a lady friend on this side. I'm not going to get.
Let's spread some rumors.
But no.
Can we spread rumors that it's Zoe?
No. No, but Zoe. Speaking of Zoe, good way. What a roundabout way to bring her up. She does apologize. She was hoping to be on the show tonight. She is healing. She's doing much better. I saw her this weekend. She, of course, big warm embrace because she just has that energy with everybody. She was doing great. And she ended up having a teaching gig, we'll say tonight, teaching disc golf. So she wanted to be on the show.
Did you see who she was teaching?
The same little brat that jacked her in the face? No. I don't know.
Intel.
Oh yeah, I did.
It was
yes.
a major corporation, Intel, in their area. So that's kind of a cool thing. And she was hoping that maybe it could flourish into a slightly larger opportunity for her. So we're wishing her the best of luck. Send her your good wishes that maybe she gets something in there. I mean, can you imagine having someone like Intel as a sponsor for an event for like the next Portland event?
Yeah, that would be huge. And I'll follow that up as well and say my host was talking about, he thinks that there's baskets on the YouTube campus, which obviously isn't far from where I'm at right now. And if that's the case, I know they don't let anyone on there. He had a whole nother story, which I won't go into. But if there's baskets there and I can see them, I need to at least go and film them and do an introduction from there for my video blogs. And really, YouTube and the disc golf guy video blogs all based on YouTube. If there's seriously baskets, that's the rumor. If there are baskets on that YouTube property, I of course have no right to play them, even though it would be nice to go ask. But anyway, I have no right to playing them. It's private property. I would at least want to film the fact that they exist there, because that would be huge if that's really the case. And if that's really the case, we need to have another conversation directly with some peeps at YouTube. I don't know who I'll call, but
Yeah.
let's make that happen.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know
So,
who to call.
very...
Let me call Sergey and Sergey and the other guy from Google, and we'll find out.
So, it's a couple of the questions relating back to our board asking if we're going to be live. No. No one's going to be doing any kind of live broadcast from the event. It was tested down in Seaside, California, where this is on a golf course at the Bayonet Golf Course. There's virtually no signal. That's what we've been told countless times by a handful of people. So that live was not even really an option. They would have wanted us to donate all of the expenses to be there live, which would have been a lot. But that's not even a possibility because of the fact that there's actually no cell phone or very little or poor cell reception out there. So no one's going to be live. Disc Golf Planet won't be live. I won't, Smashbox won't be live. I'm planning on doing some video blogs of some nature, but I think it's going to be a little crazy. And I know this was asked about earlier before the podcast even started, but there's going to be probably 3 or 4 film crews out there, including myself. And how going to get how it's going to be the little wild west, I'm guessing. I don't know if somebody's going to dictate who can be on which cards, and I know that was a huge point of contention regarding the Masters Cup. So just know that there will be coverage. I hope 4 different. I'll say this: I'm not going to go cover the same card that 4 other entities are on, and make it a 5th set of eyes on it. But that's going to be a debate. And somebody said, who gets to make those choices? Typically, the event gets to decide, or does decide, who's covering what card, or the PDGA outright decides. That is the decision that I make. For this last weekend, for example, there was some accusatory statements about me, having these exclusive rights and doing this or doing that, or demanding or commanding any given setup. Not the case. DGA reached out to me, wanted me to come cover the event, and they dictated where I was stationed.
Sure.
And then the PDGA also assisted in telling people, what the various options were. So for anyone that's curious, that's how it went down. And I know we can never head off every rumor and not everybody will know, but that's what happened. So I wish I had that kind of power just to say, oh, you cover this, I cover that, you be over here and I'll be over here. That's not me. That was the PDGA, who owns the rights to all PDGA events.
Yep.
That was the PDGA then working with the local event staff and tournament and sponsors to then work out the exact media rights. So know that, spread that word, let people know. What I don't want to see, and again, I'm new to it for this weekend, what I don't want to see is 5 sets of cameras all covering one card.
Yeah.
Maybe McBeth's there, or it's the leader card. That's what I think we need to get away from. And I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know if it's only going to happen when it's officially dictated, but I think we need to get away from that, because it really does a disservice to our viewers, and it does a disservice, I think, all the other good players that are out there.
Sure.
That really, and yes, I know people will say, well, I like McFly stuff and I don't like Terry's stuff, or I like so-and-so and I don't like so-and-so. So 4 of them, and you can pick and choose. Yeah, maybe, but I think you should suck it up. And I think you get if you only want to watch leader card, then you only get who covered it. Too bad. That's how I feel about it. We'll see. It's going to be an ongoing growing pain, and we'll probably talk about it often. But that's how things are going down right now. So it's usually the event host and or director, along with the PDGA, that's making those decisions. So if you don't like me covering something, take it up with the event.
Well, let's get this wrapped up here pretty quick. It's getting to be on about almost an hour and a half. My bandwidth is bouncing like a madman, so people are probably not even getting half of what we're seeing. Do you have any final thoughts on the weekend or any upcoming preview
I'll just keep it short and sweet. St. Jude, last time I checked, we as disc golfers collectively have raised over $130,000. Paul McBeth, I think, has raised 20 or 30 of that himself, but we've raised over $100,000. I'm really looking forward to the event. Huge thank you, DGA, for help getting me out here for this week to bring you the Masters Cup coverage. It was an amazing experience. Huge thank you to Bill Sherman, who's just been phenomenal in every possible way as a host. And that's about it for now. We'll have a lot more when we're on a better connection. Everything is good to go. So thank you guys for sticking with us. Thank you guys for tuning in and dealing with any inadequacies or challenges. That's the word. Any technical challenges that we have. We appreciate it. And that's about it. I think I'm going to go enjoy some more California weather.
Yeah, lucky you. It's only, 8:30 there? It's 10:30 here. I'm going to get this stopped and recorded and re-upload onto a new page so everyone can check this out and all the awesome quality, not so much, that it even is live. So anyway.
I don't feel bad for you. If you're up till midnight, I don't feel so bad for you.
I'm not. Trust me, I'm not complaining after hearing your nights this week. So, and I'll say it for everybody. Thanks for putting in all the effort you did to get those rounds up as soon as you humanly could. I know you sacrificed. You're not much of a sleeper in general, but you did sacrifice the little sleep that you do enjoy. So, and nobody else around you enjoys sleep. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, my snoring will make up for it. All right. Well, thank you everyone to tune in. Again, reach out to me if you guys are around. If I'll see you at the St. Jude event, hit me up on Facebook. If you're in the area or something like that, I'd love to meet up and talk to as many people as I can. I'll be out at Golden Gate tomorrow taking in some action after I visit the guys at DGA. So it should be an all-around pretty awesome day. So, all right, let's wrap this up. Thank you for being on tonight and, keeping all the things in control over as best as we could in Milwaukee. And for myself, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, I'm in Santa Cruz. And we'll catch you guys next time when you step inside the Smash Box.